I used to be the one who betrayed, but when I finally changed, when I gave my whole heart to my family, that's when the woman I shared my life and bed with betrayed me. 11 years of marriage, 3 kids, one home, and hundreds of second chances. I thought we had survived it all. Until one day, my wife looked me in the eye and said, I'm not happy anymore. I've fallen in love with someone else. And that someone wasn't a stranger to me. I was shattered, angry, but quiet. I did the one thing that tore her whole world apart. But was I wrong for telling the truth? And the most painful part? The woman who once knew my soul inside and out now looks at me like I'm a stranger. I'm not saying I was the perfect husband. In fact, I used to be pretty awful. I hurt my wife with stupid acts of betrayal in the past. I used to think that if I just apologized, hugged her, and promised to change, everything would magically go back to the way it was. But marriage isn't a room you can sweep clean and forget about the cracks underneath the floor. My wife and I have been together for 16 years, 11 of those legally married. Our 3 kids, 14, 9, and the youngest just 3 years old, are living proof of how much we've tried to hold things together over the years. But let's be fair, my wife wasn't the only one who had to forgive. What most people don't know is that she also once betrayed me. Not physically, but through late night conversations with old flames, the kind of friends she kept behind my back. Relationships she claimed were just friends, but ones that made me feel like I no longer had access to the deeper parts of her world. I forgave her. I let it go because I believed that if I could change, so could she. She grew up in a religious home full of morals, responsibilities, and the image of a traditional woman. Me? I was the rebel, careless, rough around the edges, clumsy with words, and worse with actions. But she chose to love me, all of me, including the impulsive, broken, and unfinished parts, and that made me want to become someone worthy of her. Over the past 5 years, I did just that. No more cheating, no more lies. I focused on our family. I drove our kids to school every day, learned how to really listen to her, and worked on every little bad habit I had. Cut back on the reckless hangouts, became more mindful about money, and took on my share of the chores. Everyone around me said, "You're not the same guy you were 10 years ago." And I believed she saw it too. She once said to me, "Thank you for growing up for me." But what I didn't expect was this. No matter how much you change, if someone's heart has already gone cold, there may be no way to warm it back up. These last 6 months, I felt something shift. She became distant, quieter. She didn't smile at me the way she used to. I thought she was just tired, worn out from raising kids and juggling work. I didn't realize that while I was trying to hold our family together, an old friend had slipped through the cracks. Cracks I'd created long ago with my own mistakes. Looking back now, I'm not sure I can fully blame her. I betrayed her trust once, and maybe that trust never really came back. But what hurts the most isn't that she fell in love with someone else. It's that she chose to hide it, to let me keep living in this illusion that I was fighting for something that could still be saved. If I was really that terrible, why didn't she leave sooner? Why wait until I actually became a better man, just to hit me with the final blow? Maybe I was wrong to believe that changing myself would be enough to keep someone who once hurt me from leaving. Because when a heart breaks, it doesn't always shatter all at once. Sometimes it just bleeds, little by little, until there's nothing left to feel. 6 months ago, my wife told me an old friend of hers had just lost his brother, a huge loss, and she wanted to offer her condolences. I didn't question it. I trusted her. I believed it was simply compassion between two people who once knew each other. She messaged him, sometimes even called, and I told myself it was kindness, the kind that comes from faith and a good heart. But then She started to change. The warmth in her eyes whenever I entered the room disappeared. She no longer asked how work was when I came home late. Every time I got close, she seemed like she was hiding something. Long nights with her back turned to me, whispering into her phone. Weekends with excuses, meeting a friend, going to church, or helping someone fix something. I thought of asking, but I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to shatter the fragile calm, even if it was fake. And part of me was afraid of the truth. I had once been the one who caused her pain. I didn't feel I had the right to question her. That's what I kept telling myself. Until 2 weeks ago, when the silence between us felt like a wall I couldn't break through. One evening after we'd put the kids to bed, I looked at her and asked, "You don't love me anymore, do you?" She didn't answer, just lowered her head. Her eyes turned red. I asked again, "Is there someone else?" At first, she shook her head, but I knew. You can lie with words, but not with your eyes. A few minutes later, she broke down, covered her face with her hands, and cried. Then she whispered, "I've fallen in love with him." And we crossed the line. I went numb. I didn't scream, didn't throw anything. I just sat there as if time had stopped. This woman who once promised she belonged only to me, who, for the past 16 years, had been my only place of return, now belonged to someone else. And what hurt the most was that she once said, "You're the only man I'll ever love." But now, that wasn't true anymore. I know the man. He doesn't live nearby. An old friend from her side of the family. I remembered the old photos, the way she'd once mentioned him in passing. He was really kind to me back then. Suddenly, everything made sense. She hadn't reached out to him out of pity. She reached out because she was empty, because she felt alone in our marriage. I wanted to be angry, to blame her. But when I saw her crying, I saw something else. Weakness, helplessness. She wasn't a bad person, just someone swept away by emotions during her most vulnerable moment. We were two imperfect people trying to hold together a home built on a threadbare rope, one frayed by past betrayal. But eventually, she stopped trying to hold on, and I realized I had missed the only chance I had to save her from falling into someone else's arms. Not because I didn't love her, but because I thought love alone would be enough, when what she really needed was understanding. Every day, every hour. I couldn't sleep for nights after her confession. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my wife, the woman I once believed to be strong, loyal, incapable of crossing any line, wrapped in the arms of another man. My mind was spinning, drowning in chaos. But there was one thing clearer than anything else. I felt betrayed in a way no apology could ever erase. Yes, I had cheated before, but I never loved anyone else. For me, sex was a stupid, impulsive mistake. But my wife? She wasn't the kind of person who'd just make a mistake and move on. She loved him. She dreamed of a different life, one without me in it. And then, just when everything seemed on the verge of shattering, a thought struck me. His girlfriend. Yes, the man she loved wasn't single. He had a woman, a home, children, a life he built with someone else, a family my wife invaded without a second thought. And him? He played both roles like nothing was wrong. I couldn't stop thinking about that woman, an innocent person who might be home, cooking dinner, waiting for him, believing that the man she loved was a decent human being, just like I once believed about my wife. And I couldn't stay silent, not out of revenge, but because if I kept this secret, I'd be complicit in their lie. So I followed the breadcrumbs, social media accounts, old friends on her contact list, and found a way to message his girlfriend. I didn't sugarcoat. I didn't curse. I just told her what I knew. I showed her the truth and left her free to decide. I attached screenshots, messages between my wife and her lover. Undeniable proof. 3 hours later, she replied. Just one short message that haunts me to this day. Thank you for telling me. I'm done with him. A few days later, I heard she kicked him out. My wife noticed something was off because suddenly he was gone. No texts, no calls. A man who once swore he loved her, who called her his angel in the darkness, disappeared as if he never existed. She fell apart. She cried. She blamed me. She said, "Why did you ruin everything? You destroyed the only thing that made me feel alive." And that hurt, but not because I felt guilty. It hurt because I realized something devastating. To her, I was now just the person who caused pain. Nothing more. She wasn't angry for betraying me. She wasn't sorry for dragging our marriage to the edge of ruin. She was angry because I destroyed the fantasy she created with a man who never truly loved her. It's bitter, but it's the truth. The woman who was once my partner, my best friend, the mother of my 3 children, had fallen in love with a ghost. And when the ghost vanished, she blamed the only one who dared to speak the truth. I don't know if I'm the good guy or the villain in this story, but I do know one thing. The truth, no matter how painful, needed to be known. Not just for me, but for the other woman who was lied to, just like I once was. I was wrong, deeply wrong. And I don't deny that. I betrayed my wife in the past, more than once. Back then I was selfish, careless, and blind. I didn't understand the pain a woman feels when someone she trusts shatters that trust. I thought a few apologies, a few romantic gestures, and a few attempts to play the role of a good husband could somehow fix the vows I had broken. But over time, I changed. Truly changed. I'm no longer the man I used to be. I chose to live differently, to love sincerely, to keep my word, to live for my wife and our children. And she knows that. I believe she feels the shift in me, the growth she once prayed for. And she's made mistakes too. There were those vague, late night messages, conversations with her ex. I forgave her, not because I was noble, but because I believed anyone can lose their way during moments of weakness. I used to think that true love and patience could heal us both. But this time, it's different. This time, the wound isn't something forgiveness alone can mend. It's a deep, clean cut, straight to the heart. And the person holding the knife was the very one I once swore to protect. She didn't just cheat. She gave her heart, fully and completely, to someone else. She planned their meetings, lied to our children, lied to me, and lied to her own conscience. The same conscience that once vowed loyalty before God. I used to think betrayal was the worst thing that could happen. But now I know. Being forgotten inside your own marriage is far worse. And what truly broke me wasn't that she loved someone else. It was that when everything came crashing down, she didn't feel guilty for what she did to me. She only mourned the loss of him. I sat there watching her cry, not because our family was falling apart, but because he's not texting me anymore. And those words slapped me in the face, like I was just the stranger who'd gotten in the way of the man who made her feel alive. No apology, no remorse in her eyes, just, "You ruined everything." I won't deny that I was once the reason this marriage cracked, but I also gave it everything I had to make things right. I chose to stay. I chose to love again. I chose to forgive. But now I see that there are limits, lines the human heart cannot cross and return unchanged. Her betrayal wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. She chose him. She chose deception. She chose to continue the affair rather than sit down, talk to me, and try to save our family. I can forgive a mistake. but I can't forgive the attitude, the refusal to take responsibility, the way she stripped me of my dignity by making me the villain in the secret love story she built behind my back. We were both wrong at different points, but this time it was her choice that severed the final thread holding this marriage together. She chose to leave. No final talk to untangle the mess, no last hug, no explanation, just a cold sentence. I can't live in this house with you anymore. Nice. This house that once echoed with children's laughter, with dinners around the table, with sweet moments between two people who once loved each other with all they had. Now it feels empty. She packed her things in silence, left only a few items for the kids, and a crumpled note that read, "I'll let the lawyer handle everything. Goodbye." I sat there, alone in the living room, and somehow the room felt so big. I felt so small. Our three kids didn't understand what was happening. The youngest kept asking, "Where did mommy go?" The older two were beginning to sense the shift, their eyes filled with confusion and quiet pain. I never wanted it to come to this. I used to believe, if we were both wrong, we could both learn to forgive. But now I understand something deeper. Forgiveness only matters when someone chooses to stay and make things right. She didn't choose that. And me? After all those years chasing the ideal of a happy family, by holding on to someone who no longer loved me, now I'm left with the truth. Love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go, to save yourself and the innocent lives watching it all. I don't hope for her to come back anymore. I no longer dream of some tearful reunion and heartfelt forgiveness. Instead, I'm learning to live alone. I cook for the kids, I drive them to school, I clean the house, wipe down every dusty shelf, as if scrubbing my own soul clean in the process. And surprisingly, in that lonely stretch of healing, I found a friend, his ex-girlfriend. She too was betrayed. She too was broken. But instead of closing her heart, she chose to open it, to share, to listen, to remind me I'm not the only one who lost something in this story. We're not in love, but we understand each other. It's a pure kind of empathy. No expectations, no romance. We talk every night. We dissect what went wrong, what could have been different, and we both nod in agreement at a bitter truth. Those who deceive once will deceive again, if they're not ready to face themselves. I don't know what the future holds for my wife and that man. Maybe they'll get back together. Maybe they'll keep lying to each other, surviving on that emotional emptiness. I don't care anymore. Now I know only one thing. I still have 3 kids, and I will not let them grow up in the shadow of bitterness, anger, or hate. I choose to be the kind of father who heals, not the one who passes down the pain. This heartbreak was once the deepest wound of my life, but now I see it clearly. It was also the door, the first step into a new chapter, one of freedom, awakening, and trust in myself.